My wife's alpha gave me two choices: walk away or face him. I didn't just respond, I fought back million views. Have you ever felt the ground shift beneath you, betraying every truth you held dear? I stood frozen in the dimly lit parking lot, the neon glow of a bar flickering overhead, when a black Jeep screeched to a halt inches from me. The door flung open, and out stepped a man I'd never seen, broad, shadowed, his eyes glinting with a challenge I didn't yet understand. Behind him, my wife, Lauren, emerged, her lips curled in a smile that wasn't meant for me. What was she hiding? Why was she here, draped in a leather jacket I didn't recognize, her gaze avoiding mine? The air crackled with unspoken secrets, each second stretching into eternity. "Ryan, we need to talk," she said, her voice sharp, unfamiliar. But it was his voice that cut deeper, low and taunting. "Choose now, man. Walk away or deal with me." My heart pounded, questions clawing at my mind. Was this a test? A trap? The night felt alive with menace, promising a truth I wasn't sure I could face. One thing was clear: whatever happened next would rewrite my life, and I wasn't ready for the story it would tell. I swear if that smug jerk had said one more word, I would have smashed his jaw so he'd never grin again. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. I had no clue it was a trap, an ambush with candles and wine. But there he was, Tyler Bennett, my wife's so-called co-worker. He was already seated when I arrived, wearing a tight grey shirt like he was posing for a fitness ad, smirking like he owned the place. And Megan, my wife, sat next to him, her hand way too close to his leg, laughing too loud at his lame jokes. She had asked me to meet her for a serious talk over dinner. I thought maybe she was ready to fix our marriage. I was wrong. "Ryan," she said sweetly, gesturing to the seat across from them. "This is Tyler. You've heard me talk about him from work." Yeah, I'd heard too much. The mentor, the inspiration, the guy who just gets her. I should have known. I sat, forcing a smile, but my fists were clenched under the table. Then Tyler leaned in, eyes locked on mine like we were in some twisted standoff. "I'll keep this simple," he said, his voice slick, calculated. "You've got two options, Ryan. Walk away quietly or face me like a man." Megan didn't flinch. She smiled. My ears started ringing. The room went quiet except for the blood pounding in my head. I repeated the words in my mind: walk away quietly or face me like a man. He thought I'd slink off, nod, and abandon my life while he played house with my wife. I took a breath, smiled, looked him dead in his cold eyes, and said, "You want your teeth intact or in pieces?" Then I stood and smashed his face into the table. Plates shattered. Wine splattered Megan's cream dress like blood from a fresh cut. People screamed. Tyler tried to stand, but I knocked him back with one punch. Years of frustration, betrayal, and lonely nights fueled it. Megan shrieked, grabbing my arm, trying to pull me off. "Ryan, stop! You're embarrassing me." Embarrassing her. After she dragged me to a restaurant to be dumped in front of her new toy like a used tissue, security rushed in. I was hauled out, blood on my shirt, glass in my knuckles. Tyler was still on the floor, gasping, his alpha vibe leaking onto the tile. Outside, I stood in the cold, staring at the door as it shut behind them. I didn't feel rage anymore, just silence and one gut-wrenching truth. She brought me here to watch me lose. That wasn't the start of the affair, that was the final scene. She'd played it to the end, and I'd walked in like a clueless extra, reading lines for the first time. Megan used to look at me like I lit up the sky. Now she mocked my pain over steak and wine. But that night didn't break me. It woke me up because I knew one thing. This wasn't over. When I got home, the house felt strange, like someone had shifted the vibe. Not the furniture, not the decor, just something wrong. Her perfume hung in the hallway, but it wasn't just hers. There was another scent, something bold, cocky. I went straight to our bedroom. The bed was perfectly made, corners tight like a motel. Megan never made it like that. I sat, hands still raw from hitting Tyler, mind buzzing like a wasp nest. That scene replayed endlessly in my head. His smug voice, her silent approval, the twisted satisfaction on her face when I was dragged away. My phone buzzed. A text from her. You didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself. No, are you okay? No, let's talk. Just cold blame. That's when something snapped. I stood and started searching, not out of suspicion anymore. I knew, but I needed proof in my hands. Something solid. I began in the closet. Nothing odd until I checked the shoe shelf. A pair of heels I'd never seen. Black. Pricey. Megan hadn't worn heels around me in months. Next, her desk. I flipped through her laptop. She never locked it. She thought I trusted her too much. She was wrong. The first photo I saw crushed my chest. It was her, barely dressed, taking mirror selfies in a hotel I didn't know. Dated last weekend. She'd said she was at her friend Tara's bridal shower in Portland. Another swipe. There was Tyler in the background, shirtless, brushing his teeth. My breathing grew shallow. My eyes stung. There were videos, texts, some voice notes, his deep voice calling her my little secret, her giggling like a teenager. She called him boss in one. I nearly smashed the laptop against the wall. They mocked me. She even told him once. He still thinks it's just a rough patch. Poor guy. Poor guy. That line cut deeper than any punch I'd thrown. Suddenly it all clicked. The late work meetings, the girls' nights, the sudden effort to dress up when she barely wore makeup for me anymore. The coldness, the eye rolls, the sighs when I tried to be close. She'd checked out months ago. She wasn't mine. I was just a stand-in. A ghost in the home she pretended to share. The next morning, she strolled in like nothing happened. Hair up, sipping coffee, scrolling her phone like I wasn't there. I sat at the kitchen table staring at her. She looked up. What? I didn't answer. I slid the laptop across the table, open to the messages. Her fingers froze mid-scroll. She stared at the screen, then slowly met my eyes. Why were you digging through my stuff? That's what she said. Not, I'm sorry. Not even denial, just deflection. I leaned forward. You lied to me. You gaslit me for months. You humiliated me in public. You brought him into our lives and treated me like garbage while you fooled around behind my back. And now you're mad I found out. She shrugged. You've been dull for a long time, Ryan. You stopped trying. I needed someone who made me feel alive. My jaw tightened. And this is what you picked? A smug idiot who can't talk without flexing his ego? She smirked. At least he listens. At least he doesn't make me feel like I'm wasting my prime years waiting for someone to change. That's when I knew she'd never loved me the way I loved her. She loved the idea of me, the guy who paid the bills, who built the life. But once the routine kicked in, once I got comfortable, she got bored. I stood, went to the bedroom, started pulling clothes from drawers, stuffing them into a backpack. She followed. You're just leaving? That's it? I zipped the bag. You already left. You just didn't tell me. As I passed her in the hallway, she muttered something. I stopped. What? She looked me in the eye, cold, shameless. You were never man enough for me. I didn't speak. I didn't react. I walked out, bag over my shoulder, leaving the woman I once cherished in a house full of lies. But deep down, I knew I wasn't done. Not yet. I moved into a short-term rental that night. Bare walls. No memories. No scent of betrayal. Just silence. And that silence was deafening. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. Her face, that smirk when Tyler spoke at the restaurant. The way she looked at me like I was a bug buzzing around her wine glass. I kept replaying the messages. Her voice in those recordings wasn't the Megan I married. That woman talked about building a future, getting a cat, having kids. This Megan whispered things to Tyler that made my skin crawl. She laughed at my texts, mocked my routines, said I was too tame, too predictable. She told him I was the kind of guy who'd die paying someone else's rent. And he replied, "Good, we'll let him." I wasn't just betrayed. I was erased. For 3 days, I ignored her calls and texts. She didn't apologize, not once. Just messages like, "You overreacted. We can handle this like adults and discuss terms." She wanted to negotiate our split like a contract. No shame, no regret, just logistics. On the 4th day, she showed up at my door. I opened it, and there she was in that fake innocent look. Sweater, jeans, no makeup, like she was still the girl I proposed to at Lake Tahoe. "Can we talk?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked in, sat down, crossed her legs. Cool as ice. "You've had your outburst. Now we need to figure out what's next." I leaned against the counter. "You're acting like you didn't destroy everything we had." She sighed. "It wasn't working. You were distant. You didn't see me anymore." I laughed bitterly. "I saw you every day. I tried, but you checked out. And instead of talking, you found some gym rat with the brains of a toaster and gave him what you swore was only mine." "Don't be dramatic," she said, eyes rolling. "It wasn't like I planned it." "No? Then explain the hotel bookings, the lingerie I never saw, the videos on your laptop. Explain why he felt bold enough to tell me to abandon my marriage quietly." Her lips twitched. "You're acting like I broke the law." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You committed a fumming assassination. You killed the man I was. And you didn't even bury him with respect." She stood, suddenly angry. "I needed more. You didn't give it. You were just existing, Ryan, coming home, watching TV, being the same safe, boring guy I married. So instead of fixing it, you found someone to screw behind my back and made me think it was my fault." She walked toward the door. "You always had to play the victim. Maybe if you'd been more of a man, you'd still have a wife." I stopped her right there. "No, I don't still have a wife. I never had one. I had a leech, one that smiled while it drained me." She turned back, expression dark. "You think you're the only one who suffered? I wasted years pretending I was happy, Ryan." "You didn't pretend," I said. "You lied." And then she said it casually, like she was talking about buying milk. "I've been with Tyler for 6 months. And you know what? I feel alive again." There it was, the truth. 6 months. Every kiss, every night I asked what was wrong. Every time. She pulled away in bed. It all made sense. While I was planning our anniversary, she was booking hotel rooms with him. While I worked late, she was moaning someone else's name in my car, my bed, my fucking life. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just nodded. "Good," I said. "Then you don't need to hear what I did yesterday." Her eyes narrowed. "What?" I pulled a folder from the drawer, dropped it on the table. Inside were bank statements, screenshots, copies of joint account transfers, her secret credit card, hotel receipts, a copy of the conversation she had with Tyler about hiding money. I'd hired someone, a buddy who owed me, an ex-cop who didn't ask questions. Megan's face went pale. "Ryan, what is this?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Evidence. I'm filing for divorce. I'm taking everything. And I'll make sure your alpha male knows what happens when you challenge a quiet man and forget what he's capable of when you corner him." She reached for the folder. I snatched it back. "We're done. Leave." Her lips trembled. For the first time, a flicker of fear, but it was too late for tears, too late for regret. I'd found the truth. And the man I used to be, the one who trusted blindly, who waited for love to return, he died at that restaurant table. What stood in his place and was someone new, and I wasn't done yet. 3 days after I gave her that folder, Tyler showed up at my work. All bravado, real alpha energy. He waited outside the parking lot like some movie villain, leaning against his silver Chevy Camaro with mirrored sunglasses and that same cocky smirk from the restaurant. I knew he wanted to play this like a man-to-man talk, maybe even toss out a half-assed apology, but seeing him made my blood boil like it did in high school fights by the tracks. "Ryan," he called out, casual, like we were old pals. I didn't answer, just kept walking. Got a second? He asked, stepping into my path. I stopped, sized him up. He wasn't worth it, but I couldn't ignore him. Not after the damage he'd done. What do you want, Tyler? He gave a slow, smug shrug. Look, man, I didn't mean for things to explode like that. I figured she'd end it with you clean. Didn't know she'd drag you into that whole dinner scene. You figured, I repeated. You figured you could slide into my wife's life, into her body, and I'd just vanish quietly. He raised his hands. I get it. You're pissed. But let's not pretend she didn't choose this too. I stepped closer. She did. And so did you. So whatever fantasy you had about taking my place, forget it. You're not the alpha. You're just a side piece who got too cocky. His smile cracked for a second. You should know she's thinking about moving in with me. Good, I said. She'll fit right next to your ego and your energy drinks. His face twitched. You don't scare me, Ryan. Then you're dumber than you look, I said quietly, leaning in. Because I should. He clenched his jaw. This doesn't have to get messy. You crossed that line 6 months ago, I said, when you started talking about options. And then I said it again, calm but deadly. Want your teeth intact or in pieces? He flinched, just enough for me to see that, under all the gym muscle and loud talk, there was fear. He wasn't built for chaos, he was built for mirrors and followers. I turned and walked away, knowing the real damage I'd do wouldn't be with fists anymore. Back at the rental, I opened my laptop and went through everything again. The documents, the timeline, the evidence. My lawyer was already drafting the papers, and the more we dug, the more her charade fell apart. Megan had tapped joint accounts for weekend trips, bought Tyler a chain with my money, even tried to shift funds to her cousin's name. She was sloppy, greedy. But what shocked me most was how easily she flipped the switch, how she could lie so smoothly, smile through betrayal, act like the victim. Every text I uncovered, every receipt I printed, was another nail in the coffin of the woman I thought I knew. Later that night, I got a call from her. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Ryan, she said, her voice softer now, less venom. What? I just wanted to say, I didn't expect you to react like this. Like what? Like a man who got used? Who got stabbed in the back and dragged through your mess? I didn't mean to hurt you. Yes, you did. You just didn't think I'd fight back. Silence on the line. I heard her breathing. He's not what I thought, she finally said. I said nothing. I thought he'd be stronger, more protective. Translation. You thought he'd save you from the fallout? Another long silence. I made a mistake. I closed my eyes, shook my head slowly, though she couldn't see. No, Megan. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. A mistake is saying something cruel in a fight. You didn't make a mistake. You built this lie by lie, week by week, bed by bed. You just didn't think I'd burn it down faster than you could stack it. She tried to speak, but I hung up. I didn't need her apologies. I didn't want her pity. I'd spent too long letting her twist me into something I wasn't. She made me doubt myself. She made me question my worth. But standing there, holding the proof of her betrayal and the ashes of our marriage, I felt something I hadn't in months. Clarity. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my name, my peace, my fucking dignity. She could keep her muscle-bound boyfriend. I had something better. Freedom. And I was going to use it. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Probably because Megan didn't want our dirty laundry aired in court. She thought she could scare me into a quiet settlement. Paint herself as the wounded wife who just fell out of love. But when my lawyer dropped the financial evidence and digital files on the table, her tune changed fast. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She negotiated like a CEO trying to save her brand. We had one final meeting in person, Mediated, formal, quiet. She wore a grey suit, no makeup, trying to look polished, professional, like the kind of woman who wouldn't be. Caught half naked in a motel on work trips. I barely looked at her. At one point, she leaned toward me and whispered, "Why are you doing this? You're humiliating both of us." I kept my voice steady. "You're not embarrassed about what you did. You're embarrassed people found out." She sat back, eyes narrowing, and didn't speak to me again for the session. When it was over, I walked, out with my dignity intact and a clean slate. She walked out with half her reputation in tatters and her gym buddy waiting outside in his car, texting her like a lost dog. I thought I'd feel satisfied. I didn't. There's no victory lap in betrayal. No trophy for surviving someone's lies. Just numbness. And after that, a long, slow rebuild. Nights were the hardest. It wasn't the loneliness. It was the echoes, the silence where her laughter used to be, even if it was fake near the end. The way the sheets didn't smell like her anymore. How I caught myself reaching for my phone to text her something dumb, then remembered she was probably busy with a guy who thought deadlifts were a personality. I started hitting the gym, not to be like him, but to sweat it out. The poison, the anger, the grief. It had to go somewhere. Funny thing, the more I lifted, the more I remembered who I was before her. Not bitter, not broken, just me. One night, a buddy invited me to a bar, said I needed to get out there. I almost didn't go, but something nudged me to try. That's where I ran into her. Not Megan, her sister, Lauren. She walked in with friends, froze when she saw me at the bar. After a beat, she came over. "Ryan, God, I didn't expect you here." "Neither did I said. She glanced at her drink, then looked up. "I heard everything. I'm sorry." I nodded. "Don't be. You didn't cheat on me." She gave a sad smile. "I tried to talk her out of it, you know. When I found out, she told me to butt out. That didn't surprise me." Lauren tilted her head. "You doing okay?" I shrugged. "Some days better than others." She leaned on the bar, watching me. Megan was always the one who needed attention. Always had to win, even if it meant wrecking something good. I looked at her. Did she ever love anyone? For real? Lauren didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, "Only herself, and somehow that helped." Later that night, I walked home under a clear sky. The kind of night where the air feels fresh, like something toxic finally left your system. And for the first time in months, I smiled without effort. Not because I'd won, not because I had revenge, but because I finally knew what peace felt like. And no one, not Megan, not Tyler, not even the ghost of who I used to be, could take that away. About a week later, I got a message that threw me. It was from Tyler. It started, "I need to talk, man to man." I almost laughed when I saw it. The guy who once puffed out his chest and told me to walk away quietly now wanted to chat like equals. My first instinct was to block him, but curiosity got me. I agreed to meet. Public place, neutral ground. I picked a quiet diner near the edge of town. He showed up late, less polished, slower. His hair was messy. His eyes had bags. The smugness was gone. He sat across from me and didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. Then finally, "I think I screwed up." I didn't respond. "She's not what I thought," he went on. "I mean, she's gorgeous, yeah, but she's..." He paused, searching for the word. "Poison." I leaned back in my chair. "Welcome to the club. She used to talk about you." He continued. Like he needed to confess. Told me you didn't care about her, that you ignored her, that you hadn't touched her in months. I nodded slowly. "And you believed her?" He looked away. I wanted to. There it was. The truth. He wanted to believe I was the villain so he could feel better about taking what wasn't his. He thought he was saving her from a dead marriage. Turns. Out, he was just the next page in a story she writes over and over. She's already seeing someone else, he said, eyes low. That made me blink. Wait, she's cheating on you? He nodded, shame so thick I almost pitied him. She met him at her spin class, some guy with a yacht. She denies it, of course, says I'm paranoid. But the signs, I know them now. The late nights, the new lingerie, the sudden girls' weekends. He looked up at me. It's like déjà vu. But this time, I'm you. I wanted to feel triumph. I wanted to smirk and say, I told you so. But all I felt was exhaustion. You played your part in it, Tyler, I said quietly. Now you get to see what it's like on the other side. He rubbed his face. I don't think she's capable of real love. She's not, I said. She's only capable of attention, and when it runs out, she moves on. He didn't reply, just sat there, drowning in the mess he helped create. I stood. Good luck, man. I mean that. He looked up, confused. You're not mad anymore. I was, I said, but anger's heavy, and I've carried enough already. As I walked out of the diner, the sun hit my face. Warm, clean. I felt lighter than I had in months. I spent that evening doing something I hadn't done in years, sitting on my deck barefoot with a glass of whiskey and silence for company. No phone buzzing, no lies, no masks, just me. It's strange how betrayal feels like death when it hits, but in the aftermath, you realize it was the start of something else, a shedding of skin, a brutal rebirth. Megan called once since the papers were finalized, left a voicemail I never listened to. I deleted it the second I saw her name. She didn't get closure. She didn't get the last word. That was mine now. I started traveling again. Weekend getaways, hikes, old hobbies I'd let fade while trying to save a marriage that was rotting from within. I even reconnected with my brother. We hadn't talked in over a year because Megan said he stressed me out. Turned out she just hated that he saw through her. Lauren texted me occasionally. Nothing heavy, just check-ins, a shared meme. I appreciated that. She never pried for details or pushed healing. She just let me be. One night, she sent a photo of an old Thanksgiving from years ago. Me, Megan, and the whole family. I stared at myself in that photo for a long time. The smile on my face, the way I held her hand. I wasn't faking it. She was. That was the difference. I've learned to stop mourning what never really existed. The love I thought we had, the marriage I thought we shared. It was my truth, not hers. And that's okay because I've got something now she'll never have. Peace, accountability, a soul that didn't rot when the lies came crashing down. She's probably still out there chasing that rush, that high, that next man to worship her until he sees what's behind the smile. But me, I'm building again, brick by brick. And this time, it's real. A few months passed. Seasons changed. Didn't count days anymore, just small wins. Waking up without a knot in my gut, eating without that bitter taste of anxiety, sleeping through the night without dreams of her voice whispering lies in my ear. Then one morning, I opened my email and saw her name again. Megan, subject line. Please just hear me out. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes before clicking. Ryan, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I wouldn't be writing if it wasn't important. I messed up. I see that now. Tyler's gone. He left after I found out he'd been cheating. And now I'm just alone. I've had time to think about everything. Us. What I did. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to understand I was lost. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to feel something, anything. And I realize now the only time I ever felt truly seen was with you. You were always there. Maybe I didn't appreciate it then. Maybe I was too blind to see how rare that was. Can we talk? Just once. Please, Meg. I read it once, then again, then deleted it without replying. Because here's the thing. She didn't want me. She wanted the version of me who hadn't learned to live without her yet. The man who'd bend, shrink, compromise to keep her happy. But that man died when she chose to humiliate me in public. and treated me like a burden she couldn't wait to ditch. What she missed was the safety, the loyalty, the comfort of knowing someone would clean up her emotional mess. She didn't miss me. She missed being worshipped. That's the difference. And by then, I was already seeing someone new. Her name was Sarah. I met her by chance at a bookstore. I dropped a copy of 1984 by Orwell. She picked it up, glanced at the title and said, "Heavy read for someone with kind eyes." We talked for an hour that day, then coffee, then walks, then nothing for a few weeks because I didn't want to. Rush. I had scars. I told her that. She said, "Good scars mean you're healing." She didn't push me, didn't pry. She just showed up. Steady, honest, warm. With Sarah, everything felt simple. No pretending. No need to prove I was enough. She didn't ask about Megan much, only once, when she saw me tense after my phone buzzed, and I saw that name again. "You don't owe me the story," she said, "but if you ever want to tell it, I'll listen." And I did eventually, on a quiet Sunday with rain tapping the windows and her hand in mine. I told her everything. Not for sympathy, but because it felt good to release it into the air and let it drift away. Sarah didn't say much, just listened. And when I was done, she looked at me and said, "That was never about you." That was her broken reflection trying to find a mirror. That line stuck with me. One night, I drove past the old house. Hours back when it felt like something sacred. It looked smaller now, faded, lifeless. The lawn was patchy, the shutters sagged, like it had stopped trying to look nice. I didn't stop, just drove by. And I smiled. Not out of spite. Not because I'd won, but because I survived. Megan once told me I was too soft, that I wasn't built for chaos, that I'd crumble without her. But here I was, standing tall, scarred, but unshaken. The storm came, and it passed, and all it did was clear the view. Now I see the world better. I trust sharper. I walk stronger. I laugh deeper. There's a strange peace in losing everything. It makes you value what's real, like mornings with coffee and no secrets, like quiet evenings with someone who speaks softly and means every word, like knowing that love, real love, doesn't come wrapped in chaos. It walks in soft and stays when the rest leave. It was a crisp evening, the kind where the sky turns to velvet and the air smells like something new. I was on the balcony of my new place, smaller than the old house, but warmer in every way that counted. Sarah was inside, humming softly in the kitchen, barefoot, dancing to a song only she could hear. I watched her through the glass, and something settled in my chest. Peace. Not the kind that comes from pretending everything's fine, but the real, kind, earned after walking barefoot through hell and coming out with your soul intact. I thought about Megan again, not often anymore, but sometimes. The way you recall a fever dream, unreal, hazy, with flashes of pain that no longer sting. She'd become a name in a closed chapter, and Tyler, just a footnote, a lesson. I learned that love without respect is poison, that loyalty without honesty is a trap, and that some people only know how to take and will keep taking until you forget who you are. But I also learned that surviving betrayal doesn't make you hard. It makes you aware, stronger, sharper, more grateful for softness when you find it again. Sarah came outside, sat beside me, wrapped herself in a blanket, and leaned her head on my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, just thinking about her." I paused, then smiled, about how far I've come. She didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. Some things don't need revisiting. They just need to be understood, then left behind. I looked out at the horizon. A new chapter had begun. Not loud, not dramatic, just honest. If I could tell the man I was back then, sitting at that restaurant, table, watching his world collapse, I'd tell him this. You won't break. She'll try to convince you you're not enough, that it was your fault, that you were the problem. But you weren't. You were the anchor, the heartbeat, the soul. And when she walks away thinking she's chasing something better, she's just running from herself. Let her go, heal, grow. And when real love finds you again, it'll be quiet, gentle, consistent, and you'll know it's real because it won't have to hurt to feel alive. Sarah squeezed my hand. I looked at her and saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Home. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I said it out loud. I'm happy. And this time, I meant it. Betrayal carves a wound so deep it feels like the end. But it's only the beginning of a fiercer you. When Megan's lies unraveled, exposing her affair with Tyler, I discovered that pain is a brutal teacher, revealing truths we'd rather ignore. The lesson: never dim your light to keep someone else's shadow comfortable. Trust your gut when it screams something's off, but don't let distrust harden your heart. My advice is to release those who choose to leave. They're not your loss, they're your liberation. Rebuild with intention, choosing connections that honor your worth. For me, Sarah became a reminder that love doesn't demand you bleed. It flows gently, rooted in respect. To anyone standing in the ashes of a shattered vow, know this: your value isn't tied to their betrayal. You're not the story they wrote about you. Rise, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. The peace you'll find isn't in their apologies, it's in the life you craft, brick by honest brick. Let the past be a scar, not a shackle. The future waits, and it's yours to shape with unapologetic clarity.